Hey everybody, and welcome to Nerfcast. This is Josh.
And this is Shawn.
Yeah, so we're trying to do things a little bit different, just
Yes,
because of
I killed
scheduling.
B.F.U. I
Well,
wanted my spot back, and then unfortunately his wife got really mad, and we're not allowed to record in the house anymore. So here we are on the internet.
it's B.F.U is actually on vacation, and
He's up in a
we're
farm upstate with some puppies,
probably
your goldfish.
uh, we were supposed to start recording between Sean's place and B.F.U's, and I got a new job, and all of our schedules are crazy. So we're gonna try this Google Plus thing again for a little bit. Hopefully it'll let us do more guests and like user interactions again, which we've been wanting to do for a while. Yes, that's my sick girlfriend behind us. Say hi to everyone on the podcast.
Hi, everybody.
I'll try to keep my room cleaner for next time too. Oh, sorry, I keep hitting the camera because
Stop telling lies.
yeah, that's true. I will not have my room clean. But anyway, on to actual Nerf news.
Yes.
We don't have a ton of stuff to talk about, but there's been a couple of sort of revelations since our last podcast.
They made a Resident Evil blaster?
Yes. It's called the BioShot.
Yes.
Boom.
Never forget.
Never forget. Oh,
So, two blasters. Oh,
yeah,
did you
yeah,
want
yeah.
something else, or?
No. New blasters. You are correct. The what is it? It's the Flip Fury and the Cyclone Shock. We've seen this from a couple of different bloggers. Have had pictures and things of them out, and there's been a lot of sort of noise about them showing up on shelves here and there. But they've officially been released by Hasbro, apparently.
Well, officially released or officially acknowledged? Those are two different things.
That's a good point.
I guess if they're on shelves, they're officially released. I'm selfish and always think in American terms. So
That's
I'm like,
true.
unless I can go buy it right now, I don't really see it as released. I just think of it. But I guess, like, hasn't Rob seen it over at
Yeah,
SBNC?
I feel like there's actually a couple of like range tests or something out that I saw on YouTube for the Cyclone Shock. I guess that Hasbro has officially announced them, and they're supposed to be likely in places before Christmas time.
Yep, it's what they do every single year. They always announce stuff for like an early spring or mid-spring release, and it's always
Yep.
out by December. So, hey, everyone looking for presents this Christmas, surprise your family with Nerf blasters.
Well, I feel like they had such a good release of the Mega Magnus that they're kind of keeping it to that sort of pistol category, because those are the two that look like they're popping out now. Basically it's a big strong arm is the Cyclone Shock, and the other one, the Flip Fury, is it's like a strong arm, but the little cylinder you can rotate, and there's another cylinder. Very similar to there's an Air Zone blaster that does that as well. And I know a lot of people have modded strong arms and Mavericks to do that in the past. So it's been interesting actually, because a lot of the reactions to it haven't been great. People are like, well, that's been done. People have been modding that for a long time, so it's nothing new. I think it's awesome that Hasbro's doing it, because it's like, hey, now you don't have to take it apart or buy two blasters just to have an extra cylinder to do stuff to. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not super excited about it. Like, I'm going to use it on my games personally, but for people who want that and don't want to take the time to mod it or aren't inclined to, like, why not release something that is very common?
No, I agree 100%. I think the cool thing, too, is I feel like the engineers saw this idea online and they're like, yeah, we could do that very easily. Let's do it. I think it's a good sign that, like, Hasbro and Nerf are getting more in tune with the Nerf community, especially less of this attitude of hush-hush when it comes to blasters coming out early or being leaked on Taobao and Baidu. It's just like, I guess the cat's out of the bag, let's talk about it. And it's interesting, too, because they don't have a big fan base. I mean, there is us, there is the Nerf community, but it's not like a video game. It's not like if a video game gets leaked early, like a couple of days, there's a big hubbub on the internet. It's like, oh, they broke the street release date. With Nerf, it's always kind of like, it's here, it's ready, let's start selling units. Like they've had like for example, like the 9913, I think they released a major blaster and all that kind of stuff. They like to have these big announcements days and build up the hype. I just feel like the execution isn't there, so it's kind of like, well, if the blaster's here, let's just start posting about it. Don't waste cycles. Advertise while it's hot. It's the right way to do things.
Yeah, I feel like they might as well. It's not really going to make a huge difference one way or the other if they, are keeping a specific street date, because like you said, it's not like a video game or a movie where tons of people are waiting for one day for this to drop. It's just like, well, as soon as people see it, they're going to buy it. And as far as parents and kids go, they're just going to buy whatever they see, so it doesn't really matter.
I mean, the fun part for us is it's like the hunt is on. Like, there's only so much you can do thrift shopping all the time and getting little gold nuggets there. It's kind of fun knowing a couple times a year. It's like this blaster might be out or might not, and the people at Toys R Us and Target are going to be unreliable if you call them up. So it's like, God, drive down to the store, got to show them the UPC or the DCPI number, and they got to go hunting back, and it's always like, oh, will they have it, won't they have it? And it's an element of entertainment, honestly. I love going down to Targets and not knowing if I'm walking out with $50 less because new stuff is around or not.
Oh, dude, totally. I love when something's out, even if it's only a couple weeks early, and just like hitting Targets every day to see who has it, and then seeing, Reddit just go crazy, like, oh, it's been spotted in this city, in this state, blah, 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 and there's like a where you found it thread for different blasters. Yeah, I think that's a ton of fun. I mean, it's not something that I think Hasbro is doing intentionally by any means, but it's, it's just an element of something, especially in the off-season, for people like us that aren't playing in the winter, that is like, friggin', why not? At least it gives us kind of something to do.
It's something, yeah. I mean, honestly, this time of year is always really dead. Hunting for the new products is basically all we can do. Once that happens, then we can start doing reviews, analysis, conjecture of how they'll play at games, all of that. But, I mean, early November is a hard time to talk about Nerf. And there are a lot of hard periods throughout the year that's hard to talk about Nerf, but I mean, now all we have basically is the leaks that we've already discussed, and then just kind of waiting on new stuff to come out for us to actually test out.
Oh, yeah. Actually, speaking of tests, something I wanted to throw out there really quick was apologies for not having more Pat test footage. I know some people were asking about what it was after the podcast, and we said we'd have stuff out there, and we didn't. We recorded a bunch of stuff, like we said last time, that just ended up being unusable, and it's been like rainy and not great here. I mean, it's California, so not great here isn't like everywhere else, but we don't really have, the way it's set up is we can't do it indoors. We just don't have access to large enough indoor sort of arenas or that sort of space to do these tests. So we'll try to get stuff out there as soon as possible to sort of explain the test and show people what it is and some actual demonstrations.
I think we're planning on doing some pad testing this weekend, aren't we?
Yeah, if all goes according to plan, hopefully we'll have some people. I think B.F.U is free because his wife is doing some other stuff on their vacation. She's going to visit horses or something. Yeah, we're going to hopefully try to have some people over to his place and go over basically what pat testing is with them, and hopefully we can get some footage and some explanation stuff for all of you guys on the interwebs.
Yep.
So, yeah, sorry it's been kind of dead lately. Again, not a whole lot to talk about, and yeah, the filming conditions haven't been great. There's just a lot of stuff going on right now for us personally. Everybody's schedules aren't syncing up and whatnot. So, like our HVZ game that we've been talking about on the podcast for a while got rained out. So
yeah. There's supposed to be a follow-up event at some point. I'm working it out with the school right now to see when they want us to come back out.
Right.
But yeah, we were there, blasters in hand.
Yeah.
And we've been in a drought in California. We have not had much rain the entire year. So
Mm-hmm.
we want to fix the one day where there's a huge downpour right at the start of the game to like come down, and that's the part that always sucks about certain sports too. Like it just needs to rain for that initial beginning period for most people to look outside and be like, yeah, I'm not going to go out. Even if it clears up and dries up within an hour, it just kills attendance. So yeah, we just decided it'd be safer to play a different day instead of trying to play in the rain and slip on the grass and concrete and everything.
Yeah, and we still don't have the details if it's going to be a public game like this one was scheduled to be, or if we're just going to do something for the actual group that was hiring us to do this. So if there is anything, we'll let you know. Honestly, most of you watching are probably not in the Bay Area, and if you are, you'll hear about it through us by some means, I'm sure. Anyway, so but just to let people know what's been going on.
So, Josh, what do you think about all these Mega Darts going the route of pistols? I mean, I think they've been popular, especially with the Mega Magnus, but I'm not sure if it's because the Mega line is now moving into a pistol direction, if they don't think big blasters are worth it anymore. I mean, obviously they're coming out with the Cyclone. Is that the one that's like a Rampage?
I
Or
think it's the Bio show.
Berserker.
No, that's a different blaster. If
The
there's the Berserker.
hmm
The
Yeah, so the
yeah.
Berserker is like one big blaster, but I mean, the Mega Line doesn't have a lot of big blasters. I know typical Nerf, when you're dealing with streamlined darts and everything, pistols are very easy to make, but you'd figure with the investment going into the Mega Line that they would be okay with making bigger blasters to go with that, but it seems like they've been gravitating much more often towards the pistol blasters. I mean, do you think this is an intentional design change, or are they just following what worked with typical Nerf blasters, or do you think they just figured it's too much of an investment to make a big blaster that you aren't getting much more performance out of? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think that we'll probably end up seeing something in a economical price range a lot because they did well with the Magnus. Again, the Centurion didn't do well, but it looks like well, at least from what I've seen, the Thunderbow has actually been okay. Um, so I think it's more just that let's give people something sort of an entry level blaster, which tends to be something pistol size just because it doesn't cost as much to manufacture, and then have that step up uh, like the Thunderbow. Obviously, again, the Centurion didn't do so well, so they'll have the Berserker. Hopefully, will if it performs well, I think it'll sell well as long as the price point isn't $80 or something like that.
Yeah, and Hasbro has been going more on the expensive line lately with all their blasters.
For sure, for sure. I think the biggest thing with Mega is going to be just no more Mega clip system, or at least not for a while. Just because it's so sort of cumbersome, and you can't really utilize it the same way you do with the standard clip system stuff. So anything magazine fed, I feel like we won't see that for at least a year or two. They'll probably keep from revisiting it just since it did so poorly. And honestly, these big darts, like, if it takes that much space just to engineer a blaster that uses a magazine that only holds 6, I'd rather have a blaster that looks, like the Berserker that can hold more, and it might take me longer to reload. I'm not going to have that clip system, but is that really, kind of weighing the pros and cons at that point?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same pros and cons you'd see with the hammer shot, and looking at it in comparison to like an Alpha Trooper. Yes, it is easier to have preloaded magazines just because when you're out, you can eject the clip and then just load the next one in and you're set to go. But with a hammer shot, you can very easily reload them very quickly. It takes a lot of time to sit there and load darts into a magazine. It wastes a lot of time. As far as like front-loading blasters go, it is very nice just to grab a handful of darts and be ready to go. I think that's really the saving grace with the Mega Series because it gives you a place to store your darts pretty easily. They can all be contained within the barrel or whatever system that the Berserker is going to use, and at the same time, you're not getting that dart compression factor that you might get by having them sit in the magazine for too long. You have them sitting in where they aren't going to lose their shape. So Mega Darts are expensive. You don't want them to get damaged, so I consider that a major plus. I think, honestly, the Centurion, if more... I think the Centurion makes sense from a standpoint if you look at the Elite series and the other N-Strike series where clips and magazines were becoming a big theme, that they would want to continue that into the Mega line. But I think just after Centurion, I think any sensible person would come to the conclusion that a magazine any bigger than this would be too cumbersome, and 6 shots isn't really enough to do anything good with it, and it's bulky enough not to be really good as a little pistol. So I think that's why the Magnus worked out. I think that's why some of these other hand blasters are going to work out. And I think it's why the Berserker is going to work out, because it's not dependent on a clip system, which, honestly, because of the size you're dealing with, you're losing a lot of the convenience that you got with the N-Strike series mags. I think it just makes more sense to have a dart pouch just full of mega darts all stored next to you, and you just load as you go. I think that makes way more sense than having a magazine.
Oh, totally. I mean, you know, again, like you said, there's pros and cons with mega darts, and it's just really that they're so large, and you're dealing with things on such a different scale that you can't expect them to be as convenient and easy to make magazines the way that you can with the regular Elite darts.
Random question. Have you had a chance to check out the Voidberry darts yet?
I have not, actually. Blood Angel, who's been on the show and has done some write-ups for us, said he ordered some. I believe he is testing them and is probably going to have an updated version of the stock dart dock that we've put up on the blog before. So if he comes to the PAT testing on Saturday, if it all goes down smoothly, hopefully we'll have a chance to check some out.
Yeah, so far his feedback seems to be pretty positive. He mentions that the glue is held together very well. Noses are done well. I think he said that the glue's a little bit better than even the Koosh darts are. So that's interesting. I'm honestly intrigued to hear more about them just because we have a little chat that we use to discuss with one another, and he's been talking about them a lot in there. And I've been out of commission. I've had a bad back for a while, so I haven't been able to do much. I'm going the route of My Last Start, where I just...
I was about to say, you're the U.S. My Last Dart.
Yes. Where right now, if you were watching me earlier, I was trying to stand up my back a little bit, and you might have seen me hold my face down because I hurt myself a lot just trying to do that. So it's been tricky trying to find time to sit down for an hour and do the Nerfcast, but I've been kind of scouring the Nerf subreddit and listening to people talk. I'm like, I want to do stuff. I want to go look for things, but I'm going to lay down anyway.
Yeah, you know. I remembered him mentioning some things like they are a little bit, I think he was saying from like 30 feet in, or up to 30 feet, rather, they're like way more accurate than the Elite darts. But then once you get back to like 50 feet, they start fishtailing a lot, similar to Elites, and it would be better to use something heavier like a Koosh, or even those, what are they, FVJs, full vinyl jackets, which I still love the name of, by the way. Thanks Foam Data. Solid name, especially since they come in a bunch of colors. But yeah, so we'll see what the kind of final results are and what he says is what. And again, any darts that you use, we recommend making sure that you check with whoever's hosting the ward. Make sure it's cool to use them, and mark the heck out of them if you want them back, no matter what they are.
I was just remembering the war we did up at San Francisco by AT&T Stadium, where we were using the cheap Chinese knockoff darts.
Yeah.
Horrible. They worked in Alpha Trooper. They worked with anything that had a plunger system in them, but anything with flywheels was just no go.
Yeah.
So if I were an event organizer and I saw those, I'd be hesitant about allowing them because I know they would cause a lot more issues than they would really help. I mean, you can't really control people using whatever darts. I mean, if I show up with a bunch of mega darts, nobody else can use those anyway. So
right.
It's one of those situations where you can kind of be nice and let people know, hey, you see these light blue darts, they're not going to work in your blasters. or you could do what we do where nobody really knew, and every time we fired them over, people tried to reload with them and ran into issues.
Yeah, they really hated them.
A good idea, but it's a valid strategy. It seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the main concern for if you're asking someone if you can use darts or not isn't necessarily, hey, are these going to work in every blaster? Because some people, you know, rock whistlers or even taggers at a lot of games, and obviously you can't put those in most clip-fed blasters. It's more of the just, hey, is this okay as far as, you know...
Like safety concerns.
Right, is any safety concerns? Are these... What do you consider, like, is this going to hurt or not? Same with any modifications you do to blasters. You know, our games, Sambo, modified blasters are okay. You know, maybe you have something that's really just heavily modified and you've never seen someone else run something like that. Run it by the mods. We always appreciate it when people are like, hey, I know you say that modded blasters are okay, because generally that's like, oh, I threw a 5 kilogram spring in, or I took an Orange Mod Works kit, excuse me, and put it in, or, you know, up the voltage on a Strife. That stuff isn't going to be too bad. Sometimes you get something that's like, well, I took this crazy thing and I put a thing on it, and then now I shoot a dart at 500 miles per hour.
Yes.
Or, you know, always the other random concerns, i.e., I took a paintball gun and now it shoots Nerf. It's usually just a no, because there's, depending on laws, like over here, that's just straight illegal. If you took a paintball or airsoft gun and you're playing with it in a park, like, you could get arrested, even if you've modified it for Nerf.
Yeah.
It's weird. We have very strange laws about replica firearms versus actual firearms. Like, you could have a actual firearm in some places, and as long as it's not loaded and stuff, it's legal to have out. But if you have a replica firearm and it's out in public in some places, it is illegal, even though the real firearm would be legal. I don't know. Real stuff. Very strange. Very strange. And I mean, it depends on what you do to it too. Some people are going to say, yeah, it looks like a Nerf blaster because you've painted it and blah, and it doesn't. And some people are not going to. So just check.
Yeah.
You know, we have Blood Angel run a bow at a lot of our games, but it looks very. He's painted it blue and elite colors, and it looks.
Put the little Nerf decal on it too, so if a
yeah, he's got like a big orange barrel on it now. So, you know, some people would say, hey, that looks way too realistic because it looks like a bow, and I'm like, how often do you see people running around with bows? So I don't know. So again, just check with your mods. Sorry, we kind of got off on a rant, on a tangent about mod.
Always important.
Always
do you
important.
Want to talk about what happened to Connor?
I don't know. I think that we should probably wait and see what comes of it. It's nothing necessarily horrible, but just, I don't know what. There's not much to report besides right now they're down at the moment, and we're waiting to sort of see what happens to them, like that group. I've heard that they're going to transition to something else and do different events, but it was just more of a check and see where you're playing, if it's okay, and what's up.
Yeah.
Since I don't know what is and isn't public information, you know, maybe we'll try to have some people on the show and see if they want to discuss stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much you wanted to really discuss. What I'm referring to, I'll just do what's publicly known. One of the groups up in San Francisco, Foam Action Network, they're on hiatus right now. They're just trying to figure out how to keep their games running and, of course, keep them always safe, but also in compliance with local laws. So we just want to make sure, you know, that the reason why I'm talking about this is when we're talking about safety and making sure that the rules and the moderators are okay with your ammo types. It's, even if you're following everything to a T to be safe, your games can get shut down, and it's a risk that's always there. It's something you always kind of have to be prepared for to happen. What happened to us for our Nerf game where we got rained out. Like, security was cool with us, the school was cool with us. We had multiple clubs backing us, but just, you know, unfortunately got rained out.
We've had the cops called on us multiple times, and usually they've swung by and they've been totally cool and said, oh, you're shooting each other with Nerf, who cares? But I mean, one angry parent can ruin it for you. right? One person can say, "Oh, we were walking by and we got shot by this dart, blah blah blah," and cops might ask you to leave a public area. It might not even be that, depending on the time you're playing and what's going on. They might ask you to leave, and there's really, I mean, yeah, you can say, "Hey, I have a right to be here," and argue it with them. That's again, that's not what they're there for. The cops or the police are not there to argue the law and whether or not you're in the right or in the wrong for the most part. They're there to respond to, some sort of public complaint or something. So they're there to serve people. And while you are one of the people that they serve, it's not like, oh, well, I have the right to do this. Like, if people are complaining about it, they want you gone.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't really help you or the sport to sit there and argue with them. Usually, we just always say, hey, we're just doing this. There's no drinking or anything going on. We're trying to be, safe and compliant. These are made for, 5-year-olds. This is a school with children that are older than 5 normally, and during the off hours, it's public use because it's connected to a park. They've always been really cool with us. They've always been like, yeah, as long as no one's drinking or hurting anybody, we're fine. But always check. And if they roll up on you and ask you to leave, leave. I've been asked to leave not during burn events, but at other places, other parks and stuff.
Yeah, same here. Always kind of rough, but I think it's the real reason why HVZ on campuses has kind of thrived, because it's a contained community where we have young people who will mostly be understanding. It's mostly just making sure you have the approval of security and all of that. I think that's why San Francisco State University is still hosting their games. They're not really spooked by this because, of course the law goes everywhere, but you have people on campus who are kind of liaisons to the police and the security who know what's going on, the full situation. So that's always a huge edge that a lot of college campuses have in terms of hosting Nerf events. So yeah, it's not a big subject. It was just something I was just wanted to note, thinking about like regulation, safety, and nobody got hurt at like the last Connor game or anything like that. It was just basically people are saying like, hey,
what's going on?
Go small. There's not a lot of room. You need permits to play here. Typical stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, we have gotten some questions on like Facebook pages, like, "Hey, do you know what's going on with them?" And we're like, right now they're just down, and they're looking that, they're gonna try to have more stuff in the future. That's not a big deal. It's just more not necessarily, I guess, our story to tell per se. I mean, we'll try to talk to the mods there and see if they're cool with it, letting people know. Mostly just because we've had questions about it since we've talked to them before and we've been somewhat,
this
going to their
is
games.
basically what I've gathered on Facebook and stuff like that. So I haven't had a chance to talk to Connor yet or anything like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of, I've gotten little tidbits of information here and there, and I don't want to say anything that's wrong or incorrect.
Yeah.
Or start any weird speculation. Like I said, it's nothing bad per se. It's just people have asked why there hasn't been games or like why the group is closed. It is what it is at the moment. And there'll be more stuff. That's what we've heard. Hopefully soon. But yeah. Something I did want to talk about is these really cheap 3D printed Retaliator pump, like shotgun grip and pump mods that have come out on Taobao. And Psych did a review of them, I think his last episode, as of our air date. I think it's the previous episode. You go on his page, you'll be able to see it. He did a review on one of his weekly Nerf updates. And these things are awesome. They're like relatively cheap. I think he said the conversion rate was like $25, somewhere around there. One of them, basically, so you put a barrel on a Retaliator, and similar to, if some of you will remember, Blood Angel did a mod for a Retaliator to make a shotgun prime. Kind of the same idea. It uses the bottom tack rail on the barrel extension to have room for a shotgun prime, and then it pushes the actual slide back One of them, there's actually like something that goes over the slide, so you don't even have to take the blaster apart. You can pretty much put it all together externally, and you have a shotgun prime Retaliator. The other one, I believe, you do have to take it apart because it doesn't have something that goes over the priming mech. It actually uses like a through-and-through bolt system. It doesn't look overly complicated. You just have to take the blaster apart. But I mean, it's for $25, and apparently he said the quality was similar to that of narrow base. So that's awesome in my opinion. Anything that you can compare with narrow base's stuff is
pretty
awesome by me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And I mean, I've been contemplating ordering one just because right now I love the Elite Alpha Trooper. The version that I have is one of the first ones that came out, so we got them for like really cheap because of the whole DPCI thing.
Yep.
We raffled a bunch of them off for like a year at our games, and now I don't have any more. But and I've never bought one after that, so I don't know if this has changed. Like I know that some people had the Centurion when it first came out, and they were shooting terribly, and then afterwards people said that they didn't have problems with them shredding darts. Well, with the Alpha Trooper, I've seen problems with Kush darts firing from it. And I don't know if that's, like, all the ones that I've tried have obviously been from sort of that first batch of Elite Alpha Troopers, but I haven't seen problems with the Retaliator. And there's a lot of great kits for it, obviously, from like Orange Mod Works and stuff. So, and I don't particularly love the Rampage just because of the side loading thing. I did shoot the heck out of B.F.U's, and it is nice. Yeah, so the Alpha Trooper just kind of doesn't. It feels perfect, but because it has problems with that one thing, is now sort of like, well, crap, what can I do?
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, the big problem with that, of course, being that since the Kush dart's artificially licensed by Nerf, they probably won't try and figure out a blaster fix for it. They'll just be like, use the streamlines.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes total sense. But for those who are looking for something, they like that shotgun prime, but they don't like that weird side load, this might be a great alternative. You're spending a little bit more because you got to spend that $25, and then if you do want to do spring upgrades or whatever, you're going to have to do that as well, so it's an additional cost. But they look really nice, and I mean, it's just, Sykes said that they're really smooth, everything is really great, the build quality apparently looks phenomenal on them, and they look cool, and they're kind of different. So there's that. One of them is the shotgun grip that you actually have is molded, similar to I don't know anything else with a shotgun grip, pretty much. But the other one actually has a tack rail on the bottom, so you could actually add your own vertical grip or like an angled grip, anything like that, to kind of customize it. So yeah, that sounds pretty awesome to me. And it means you can put something on top of your Retaliator and not have to worry about grabbing the slide. So that's like right where the tack rail is, and I'm like, cool, I can put a light on here or a scope, but
you can grab it every time you want to reprime it.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's still going to move around because it still goes back when you prime it, but at least now you don't have to grab it and worry about wrenching it off. So
another plus I was thinking of, and I see people do this with the Alpha Trooper all the time, is double priming it so 2 darts get stuck in there. That's part of the functionality with the slam fire. It's like, hey, you can do that, but if darts aren't coming out, it kind of sucks. I don't know if the Retaliator would have that same problem, really, because once it's loaded, it's like, okay, you have to fire if you want to do something else. So yeah. I don't know if you can really half prime the Retaliator. I've never really bothered to check, just because the action is so clean and easy that I've never had a problem with it.
Yeah.
While the Alpha Trooper, on the other hand, and to an extent the Rampage as well, I've noticed that new players don't really slam the grip all the way forward like they should because they're afraid of hurting the blaster because they don't want to break it. But I'm like, no. Feel free to slam it back, slam it forward, be a little rough with it, because even if you are hurting the blaster, you don't want to end up with jams, because that's going to be much more worse on the internals and shredding darts too. And it seems like because the Retaliator, just the action up there is so clean, even if you're translating that over to a pump grip, just seems like it'd be something that works better. You lose the slam fire capability, but I've never really used that much anyway because I always am worried about, well, A, range sucks when you start using slam fire. B, I feel like you always run into jam potential. And C, you just go through a lot of ammo. If I'm doing that, I'll use a Strife. That's my logic.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I would rather, and that's why I'm contemplating maybe picking one of these up, because my whole thing is I really enjoy, a manual blaster that has a shotgun prime and loads from the bottom, unlike the Rampage, which does the side load thing, because that just, it bugs me for some reason. I don't mind flywheels, but I feel like I use a lot more ammo, so I prefer something where it's more consistent. Because I know that spring is going to compress the same amount every time. I'm going to get pretty much, when we've done tests with a chrono, you obviously are generally getting a smaller variables in terms of the FPS on a manual blaster as opposed to a flywheel blaster. So I prefer a manual blaster, and I like doing those weird shots, at a 30 to 45 degree angle and going over buildings and stuff and trying to hit people that I feel like I can't do with a Stripe. So something like this might be awesome, just to be able to have sort of all the upgrades I see people with Retaliators and Rampages have that I right now feel like I can't do on my Alpha Trooper because it's not going to help at all.
Plus, it makes the Retaliator a 4-in-1 blaster.
There you go. That is exactly correct. Be ready for any mission.
Yes. Any mission.
Anything.
I mean, other than that, I think that's everything I got, Josh.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I can check the Reddits and see if anything has sort of leaked down today.
I'm just going to stretch my back a little bit.
Yeah, you do your thing. Flip Fury is on Amazon, apparently. A lot of collections of things. Shipping, introductions, and game modes for you to enjoy. That sounds awesome. Here's a bunch of ideas for games. Cool. Problems with Rowberries.
Today, and I haven't seen that, so I need to read that later.
Yeah, I haven't been on it all today. I actually ended up being way busier than I originally anticipated. Test fire, demolisher, blah, blah, blah. Fire case. Something about Vowberries, someone having a particular problem, but I don't know if that's indicative of all Vowberries or not, so don't want to necessarily comment on it. I didn't read all of the, obviously more has to be tested to see what's up.
Well, we'll be running our own tests, so that solves that problem.
Yes. Yeah, and there's just a lot of questions about stuff, the usual kind of Reddit, what's the best this or not best this, and yada, yada, yada. So I don't have anything.
Yeah, well, it's a short episode. I mean, I think next episode is going to be better, hopefully. I mean, might be chaotic with all the Thanksgiving stuff going on, but, I mean, I have a strong hunch we're going to start seeing some of these blasters on shelves soon, which means we'll have them in our hands soon, which means we can actually give reviews of the blaster, because in the end, last time I was on, which was a long time ago, talking about how blasters how they function, a picture tells you nothing. A picture tells you what it looks like, what seems like it'll be cool about it. But once you get it in your hands and actually feel it, use it, you really understand how the blaster works and how you can use it in a war. That's when you know. If you had told me, like, I remember seeing the hammer shot leak, and I'm like, okay, why would I use that over a Maverick or any of the other little hand pistol blasters? And it made sense once it was in my hand. It's like, yeah, you can shoot these one-handed very easily. The hammer action is nice on it. Quick reload. The 5 barrels are actually nice because it's easier to reload. You don't have to worry about one of the holes getting stuck behind the dart post. Not dart post. The little post handle thing. It's something that as much as I love speculation and talking about things, I just remember getting bit in the butt when I was talking about the Rapid Strike and the Centurion and how they were going to completely change the Nerf game. And in a way, the Rapid Strike did. It really brought flywheels to the forefront again, and everyone and their mother uses a rapid strike. I feel like at our wars at least once or twice, and then they kind of back over to other items they like better. But Centurion didn't change anything. Nothing changed with that blaster. And looking at it and looking at the reported ranges, I was positive. So with all these blasters coming out, I have estimates, I have speculation, but I mean, once it's in my hand, I can talk for days about it. Just looking at a picture now, I don't feel comfortable really analyzing it much deeper than that.
Yeah, it's always really fun when the pictures first sort of drop to just spend endless, of hours bantering back and forth about what could be and what it couldn't be and how something looks, which is really why I wish that the leak would have been, smaller and more spread out. Obviously, that's a lot to ask for something that wasn't officially supposed to happen, but I always prefer to get leaks a little bit here, a little bit there. Here's a blaster or two, because then it gives, obviously, us something to talk about, and it gives the community something to sort of constantly be re-engaged and re-interested in.
I mean,
so,
that's the really hard thing about our community is we're just so stuck at the beck and will of Hasbro and Nerf and just all these different manufacturers for new stuff to come out. We can do homemades, but I feel like homemades have kind of gone the extent that they need to. The Snapbo works like it needs to. You're set. I mean, the real drive for content has to kind of come from people like us in the Nerf community, just talking about games, wars, new rules, cool mods that we've done. That's really where I think the community needs to push most right now, when there's not much going on, just to kind of look around. And I think that's something Psych does really well. He's always doing community analysis and talking what other people are doing. And I mean, we do it as well, obviously, with our Reddit rants and stuff like that. That's more of an observation than it is a critique. Just something on my mind. I think during the hard times, during the dry spells, it's okay to get hyped about what Nerf and Hasbro has coming out, but in the end, it's going to be ultimately what the Nerf community makes of the news and what's going on and what they do in their free time that really make it an interesting community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you a lot. There's usually not, even when they do release something new, unless it's very innovative, I have a hard time seeing what, where Nerf is going to go to be innovative, because it's just like, well, they've done so much. And they, unless it's a whole new ammo type or something. I know we talked about the Modulus a while back, and a lot of people were excited about it. To me, even if the Modulus is exactly what people kind of wanted, with different parts that you can swap on and off, the performance of the blaster and the functionality probably isn't going to change a whole heck of a lot, from what I see. There might be one or two blasters that come out that really fulfill roles that we want, but as far as, I feel like most of the stuff that's out there right now, we're not going to get better darts, better performance rather, without changing darts.
Yeah.
Right? We've already talked about this at length. So usually that sort of stuff isn't coming from Hasbro.
Yeah, and I feel like for the most part the community is met with, you have your power blasters that are super strong, you have your examples being like Zing, even the Mega Series, you have your speed blasters like the Rapid Strike, Stripes, Flywheel blasters, and then you have your accuracy blasters, which, I mean, Zing can account for that too, but stuff like the Alpha Trooper, Retaliator are great single shot and pretty accurate blasters. Every role I feel like that needs to be met in the battlefield is currently being met. At this point, it's mostly style and flair that's being provided. You aren't getting any new functionality out of these blasters, just a different way to do what you're already doing. And I mean, it's tweaks at that point, and that's fine. I mean, I will buy tweaks because it could be fun and it might be worth my time. But for the most part, I think, yeah, it's slow right now. That's what it breaks down to.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, like we said, with the Flip Fury or the Flip Fire or whatever they're calling it, it's basically a blaster that we already have with a new spin on it. If you gave me different versions of the Hammer Shot, I would probably be happy. I know Ferone would definitely buy, a ton of them, just in different colors. But if they started making little design changes with it, not even like, listen, we're just going to have, like, I know with the Sweet Revenge, they have the other version that has the zebra stripes on it, right? And it's in different colors. That's cool. He has one of those. But if they just did a whole new design, kept basically the internals and functionality almost exactly the same, maybe changed the style of the hammer and the style of the grip, right? People would probably buy it just because it's new and it's different, even though it does the same thing. And so basically, I feel like I agree with you. We're at that point where now we're just doing things like, or not we, but rather Hasbro is, all we have to look forward to is stuff like the Demolisher, right? It's cool, it's quirky. It adds a little something that we didn't have before, which is that little rocket. But functionally, it's not all that different than other blasters that are flywheels.
Or a rapid strike,
Exactly. Like, we're going to get reshelled strikes. That's what we're going to get. But if you like the shells and they're not $100 freaking, people would buy them if they release stuff that's like, cool, it's a flywheel blaster. It's no different than this other flywheel blaster, but the shell is different. You might find it more comfortable or more to your liking. People, you're going to enjoy that. Oh, now this one's another new bullpup design. Cool. We haven't had one of those in a while, so bring one out. Why not? Yep. So I can't sit there and be mad when Nerf or Hasbro doesn't release something completely new and innovative every year. Give us the time with what we've got, and let's just kind of keep going through different versions of this. Essentially, right, what you're looking at is a lot of real steel handguns are similar, but they're different enough for there to be a bajillion different ones, right?
Exactly.
So there we go. Even if you're using the same ammo type, it's just personal preference and tweaking at that point. So why not? I guess
I feel like I'm coming across very bitter and angry this podcast because we're just like, I'm mad at everything.
Old Man Shawn.
You want to talk Old Man Shawn right now? My laptop is, watch this, I'm going to scoot this back a little bit. These are the handles to the walker I use to get around sometime because my back is hurting a lot. So I am a very old 27-year-old. Let me put it that way.
Crotchety Shawn.
Yes.
Well, at least you'll have Nerf darts.
Oh, I have Nerf darts. Yeah.
No, I mean, at least you'll have Nerf darts to shoot at kids to tell them to get off your lawn. You can just peg them.
Just a couple rhino fires on the window. I'm gonna get you with your video games and your Call of Duty and your Overwatch.
That actually looks fun. I'm not gonna lie.
Overwatch looks super fun. I'm really excited about it, actually.
Yeah, me too.
There's 2 again, but with new classes. Yeah, I'm about that.
Right? Oh, I'm so excited.
Actually, I like the graphics too.
You mentioned the Rhino Fire, and I think that's the perfect example for what we're talking about with, they're trying to be as innovative as possible, but you're getting the same blasters different. Yeah. Right?
Whoever on Reddit brought up that you can just tape 2 rapid strikes together and get the same functionality or potentially better. Like, yeah, that's actually a really good point. It would be a little more bulky in some ways, but, I mean, I feel like you'd get a faster rate of fire out of it. It's something that can be met right now if you're really looking for it. It's not revolutionary. It's evolutionary.
Exactly. And that's, I think at this point, I'm just looking at how do they make things that are different so that everybody can field different blasters and feel kind of special. And I've got something that works really well for me. Yes, you have a hammer shot, but I prefer the grip on the Sweet Revenge. We already have that. So if we had like 5 different versions of a hammer shot, Sweet Revenge, and multiple other things that did the exact same thing, but it was just a little different. The grip's different. This is different. Sure. I think that would be awesome. I have no problems with that.
I think giving everyone a little bit of style and a little bit of taste is a good idea. I mean, I've been a big supporter of the idea of different paint styles coming out like they do with the Rebel for other blasters. That way people can kind of just pick and choose what colors they like. Same thing. There's nothing wrong with stylistic changes or small functionality changes. I think it just comes less down to what blasters are coming out and more what players are doing with them.
Exactly.
And, I mean, we've talked about this with our buddy Chris James before in the past, Jangular, about, it'd be fun if there are personalities out there in the Nerf war. I mean, there are some, obviously, like Bobololo, Drac, all those guys, Coop. But the problem is we're doing it in a reviewer capacity and not in a player capacity. It's like, it's one thing to sit down and read a review about a video game and see that I got a 7.1 out of 10. Even if you love the reviewer. Like, you could love Yahtzee, that's great. But you know what? Maybe you really like watching day 9 comment about a game, or you like watching, God, like, I'm trying to burn through my Twitch knowledge right now, but it's all out of my head right now. That guy who speedruns Wind Waker. You really like watching him play games. Not critique or comment, but just watching him play. And that's where I really love gameplay footage, and I would love to see more and more of that. So everyone go out and buy some GoPros. Do it.
For real.
Give me some footage to watch while I lay in bed.
Yes. Footage. More footage is always great, honestly.
And more smack talk. More smack talk on the mic.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to die soon, Josh, so I think we have to cut this episode a little bit short.
Yeah, I mean, we're just kind of ranting at this point anyway. So, you know, hopefully next time we'll have a little bit more to talk about. Maybe we'll try to do some interactions with the community, or we'll have a guest, or we'll try to do something. Like Shawn said.
If this episode doesn't come out, then you will know why we don't have guests again in the future, for the near future. We're going to figure it out again. Just the old process was not reliable. We lost many episodes by it, so hopefully this will.
So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Yeah. Anything you can think of?
Just the usual BayAreaNerf.com, our blog site. You can always catch the podcast posted there. We also have our calendar for any games that are going on. We had a couple people reach out recently asking about local games and where people play. So there are still plenty of options here in the Bay Area. Don't worry. We're in our off season, but there's still people all around the Bay playing games. If you have a game that you host in the area that somehow we missed, always feel free to reach out. On the website, there's a huge submit button. Josh and I both get those messages, so just let us know.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, again, thanks for watching, everybody. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you have ideas for us, you want to see something, what you think about blasters.
Please send us ideas.
We need stuff to talk about.
Send us questions. I will answer them, no matter what. No matter what.
No matter what. But yeah. So thanks, everybody. From everyone at Nerfcast, this is Josh.
And this is Shawn.
Happy tagging.
Happy tagging. I forgot we do something.
All right, everybody.
Much.
Take it easy.
Later, everyone.